Welcome back to Ancient Echoes, the podcast where we dig into the ruins, rituals, and the riddles of civilizations past, and occasionally wander into the woods where the myths still whisper. I'm Chelsea, and today we're heading back into the Celtic world. But this time, we're stepping past the fortified hill forts and bronze-tipped spears. Instead, we're walking into the mist, into the sacred groves, into the stories. Because for the Celts, the divine wasn't tucked away in temples or frozen in marble. It was alive in rivers, trees, animals, weather, memory, and myth. Their gods didn't rule from distant heavens. They walked the land, shaped the earth, and occasionally turned you into a salmon, just to make a point. In this episode, we'll explore the spiritual heartbeat of Celtic society, the gods, goddesses, and mythical creatures who shaped their worldview. We'll dive into the Otherworld, a realm of eternal youth and the occasional time dilation. We'll meet horned forest gods, thunder-wielding storm lords, shape-shifting queens, and tricksters who don't know how to quit. And of course, we'll talk Druids, the knowledge keepers, philosophers, and priests who memorized your entire legal code, but didn't write any of it down. This isn't mythology as moral instruction. It's mythology as ecosystem, interwoven, untamed, and beautifully inconsistent. So grab your cloak, sharpen your spear, or maybe just your curiosity, and let's step into a world where boundaries blur, gods walk beside us, and the supernatural was just, natural. To understand Celtic mythology, you have to let go of tidy pantheons. There's no neatly ranked Olympian court, no genealogical spreadsheet mapping divine succession. Celtic deities are messy, local, overlapping, and that's part of their brilliance. Rather than worshipping a single central god, the Celts venerated hundreds of deities, many of them regional, many of them unnamed outside of their native valleys. You weren't praying to the god of harvest, you were praying to your harvest god in your grove and with your dialect. It was a theology of place. That said, a few figures did rise above the mist and stone as recognizable across Celtic lands. Let's start with Lugh, or Lugh, if you prefer. He's the multi-tool of the Celtic pantheon: warrior, poet, craftsman, king, trickster, basically the kid in class who somehow excels at every subject and runs student council. Associated with light, skill, and victory, Lugh's greatest claim to fame is probably his leadership of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the semi-divine race in Irish mythology. He wields a spear that never misses, a hound that cannot be killed, and a mind that could outwit even the gods. His festival, Lugh marks the beginning of the harvest season. So if you've ever baked bread in early August, congratulations, you're participating in an ancient rite. Bonus points if you own a spear. Then there's Taranis, the thunder god. Picture booming skies, flashing lightning, and the kind of energy that makes you deeply regret not finishing your roof repairs. Taranis was venerated with fiery wheel-shaped offerings and later equated with Jupiter by Roman observers. Probably because no one wants to admit they're terrified of a sky god with better hair than Zeus. But Taranis didn't ride solo. He was part of a divine trio, alongside Usus, a nature god with a slightly mysterious and possibly violent resume, and Tautus, a protector of tribes. If that last name sounds familiar, it's because Asterix comics loved to invoke him for comedic oaths. The ancient world, now in graphic novel form. Celtic deities often came in triplicates, an echo of their love for balance, cycle, and complexity. Consider the Morrigan, the triple goddess of battle, fate, and sovereignty. She could appear as a single being or as a trio, Bod, Maka, and Niman. She's the one whispering on battlefields, shape-shifting into crows, and reminding warriors that glory and doom often wear the same face. And now, let's not forget Taranis, the antlered god of wild things, depicted with stag horns, seated in a meditative posture, surrounded by animals and symbols of abundance. He's both primal and serene, a god of liminality, of edges, between forest and field, beast and human, life and death. Some see echoes of him in later depictions of the Green Man, or even in modern pop culture's gentle forest spirits and powerful animal guides. What binds all these gods together isn't hierarchy, it's relevance. Each one embodies a piece of life: war, weather, harvest, healing, sovereignty, fertility, fate. And that means the pantheon shifts depending on what you need, where you live, and which hill you're buried under. They didn't exist to be categorized, they existed to be honored, spoken to, feared, celebrated, asked for help, and appeased, and always remembered. The Celts didn't think of the world as split between the sacred and the mundane. Instead, those worlds were layered, folded like mist over a river, thin and overlapping, where a grove or a cave could just as easily be a doorway as a destination. They called this place the Otherworld. And no, it wasn't exactly heaven, and definitely not hell. The Otherworld was more other. It was a parallel realm full of beauty, abundance, magic, and danger. A place where the dead resided, where gods wandered, where mortals occasionally stumbled, often by accident, always to their peril or transformation. In Irish myth, this realm takes names like Turnagog, the land of youth. It's where aging stops, where food and drink are plentiful, and where joy never runs out. Sounds perfect, right? Well, maybe. The problem with paradise is the fine print. Take the story of Oisin, the warrior poet who falls in love with Nan of the golden hair, a woman from Tirnanog. She whisks him away on a magical horse, and they live in eternal bliss. But Oisin eventually misses his homeland and asks to return for a visit. Nama agrees, but warns him not to dismount the horse or to touch the ground. Spoiler alert, he dismounts. He falls to the earth and instantly ages 300 years. His friends are long dead, the world he knew is gone, and he dies a stranger in his own country. So yes, Tirnanog is nice, unless you like closure. Elsewhere, the Welsh called their version of the Otherworld Onwin, a place of endless feasting, music, and heroic quests. But even paradise came with challenges. It was often guarded by magical creatures or accessed through trials, suggesting that the journey mattered just as much as the destination. And on the continental side, Gaulish belief broke the cosmos into 3 realms: Albios, the upper world of light; Bitu, the world of the living; and Dubnos, the dark underworld. These weren't just theological divisions. They reflected how the Celts saw life as cyclical and interconnected. Death didn't mean the end, it meant transition. The Druids, of course, were the ones most attuned to these realms. According to Roman writers like Caesar, the Druids taught that the soul didn't die, but passed into another body, either human or animal. It wasn't just a comforting thought, it was a cosmic fact. You didn't have to believe, you just had to live accordingly. Interestingly, the Otherworld wasn't always some faraway place behind the stars. Sometimes it was shockingly local: a lake, a hill, a cave, a ring of mushrooms in the forest, a thin place where the veil wavered and shimmered. These were called liminal spaces, thresholds between one world and the next, and they show up everywhere in Celtic myth. Doors didn't open with keys, they opened with timing. Usually on Samhain, the Celtic New Year, and the night when the veil was thinnest. Spirits wandered, the dead visited, and the living were wise to stay respectful, or at least indoors. It's where Halloween gets its spooky bone structure. But make no mistake, the Otherworld wasn't evil. It was mysterious. It could bless or curse, heal or harm, enlighten or erase. And that ambiguity, that's what makes it sacred. It's the same reason forests are both magical and terrifying, and why every fairy tale has a path you should not stray from. The Otherworld was never meant to be simple, because the mystery is part of the meaning. If the Celtic world had a high priesthood, a scholarly elite, and a legal system all rolled into one, those roles were filled by the Druids. They weren't just religious leaders, they were astronomers, poets, judges, philosophers, and political advisors. Basically, if you took a theology professor, a Supreme Court justice, and a therapist, dressed them in robes, and gave them deep reverence for oak trees, you'd be on the right track. Druids held enormous power in Celtic societies. They weren't kings, but they did advise them. They didn't write down laws, but they were the law. And they didn't just dabble in spiritual matters. They were the keepers of cosmology, seasonal festivals, and even fate of souls. In fact, according to Roman accounts, especially Julius Caesar, they believed in the transmigration of the soul. That is, after death, a soul would pass into another body, not unlike reincarnation, but with a particularly Celtic flair for circularity. This belief made them unusually brave in battle because death wasn't the end. It was just the next assignment. Now, if you're picturing gray-bearded men chanting in stone circles, that's partially thanks to romantic Victorian reinterpretations. The real Druids, though, didn't leave behind writings. Their knowledge was entirely oral, passed down through decades of memorization. Caesar even claimed their training could take 20 years. And yes, that sounds like a flex, but also imagine spending 2 decades memorizing verses and not being allowed to write anything down. That's not just discipline, it's a philosophical stance. Because for the Celts, knowledge wasn't meant to be owned, it was meant to be embodied. But let's address the uncomfortable part. The Romans accused the Druids of human sacrifice. Now, were the Romans known for their objectivity and lack of propaganda? No. So some skepticism is warranted, but there is archaeological evidence, like bog bodies with ritual wounds and deposits of weapons, and bodies in sacred lakes that suggest sacrificial practices did occur. Whether they were widespread, occasional, or misunderstood is still up for scholarly debate. Still, sacrifice didn't mean cruelty. In Celtic thought, it meant exchange. It meant returning something valuable, animal, object, or yes, sometimes human life, to maintain harmony between the human world and the divine. Their most sacred sites, groves. Oak trees were especially revered. The word druid may even come from the Proto-Celtic root dru, meaning oak, and wid, meaning to know. So quite literally, those who know the oak. It paints a different picture than the flashy temples of Rome or the ziggurats of Mesopotamia. The Celtic sacred space was organic, breathing, rooted in the land. They marked their years by the sun and the moon, their festivals by agricultural cycles, and their spiritual lives by the turning of the seasons, Imbolc, Beltane, Lugh, and Samhain. And while their power faded with Roman conquest, echoes of Druidic wisdom survived, folded into Irish monasticism, medieval storytelling, and the occasional TikTok witchcraft trend. Because at the heart of Druidic power was something timeless, that nature holds knowledge, that memory is sacred, and that wisdom isn't written, it's lived. If Greek mythology is a soap opera and Norse mythology is a metal concert, then Celtic mythology? That's a misty walk in the woods where you're just as likely to meet a talking stag as you are to disappear into another realm entirely. Because for the Celts, the line between the natural and the supernatural wasn't a line, it was a veil. thin, flickering, crossed constantly. Their landscapes were alive with meaning. Lakes, rivers, trees, caves, each one a potential doorway to the otherworld or the domain of something ancient and watching. Let's start with the creature whose name sounds deceptively adorable, the pooka. The pooka is a shapeshifter, sometimes a horse, sometimes a goat, dog, or hare, occasionally charming, occasionally terrifying. It can lead you astray, give you visions, or even ride you off into the night. It's the kind of like a Celtic chaos gremlin, equal parts Loki and fever dream. And then there's the kelpie, a beautiful, ghostly horse that lingers near lakes and rivers, waiting for a traveler to climb on its back, at which point it gallops straight into the water and drowns them. Honestly, it's the original too good to be true Tinder date. The moral: if you see a majestic horse by a lake that seems just a little too available, maybe don't. Another heavy hitter is the banshee. Often imagined today as a screaming ghost woman with messy hair, the Beansida in Irish tradition is a bit more complicated. She doesn't cause death, she warns of it. Her cry is a lament, a grief echoing across generations. She's not the monster under the bed. She's the voice in the wind that reminds you life is fragile. And now for a creature that's basically nightmare fuel wrapped in folklore, the Dúlhanan, a headless rider on a black horse, often carrying its own decapitated head under one arm. It doesn't speak, but when it stops riding, it's said that someone nearby is about to die. To which the only appropriate response is, no notes, that's terrifying, please move along. There are also creatures like Celts, who shed their seal skins to become human, only to risk heartbreak if their skins are ever stolen. The Lugh, a restless spirits who fly through the night looking to claim souls. Or the Fomorians, ancient beings who may have represented the primal chaos before the gods brought order. Sometimes monstrous, sometimes regal, always unsettling. But one of the most uniquely Celtic elements in all of this, ambiguity. These aren't just good or evil beings, they're wild. They exist in spaces we can't domesticate. They reflect nature, beautiful, dangerous, unpredictable. Even creatures like Cailleach, the divine hag who brings winter, weren't villains. She was necessary. Harsh, yes, but part of the cycle. The Celts didn't build mythology to conquer nature, they built it to live with it. To respect what couldn't be explained, to fear what couldn't be tamed, and to find wonder, always, in the dark and the strange. So what makes Celtic mythology linger? Why do stories of headless horsemen, whispering groves, and gods with silver arms still find their way into modern stories, novels, tattoos, and even Dungeons and Dragons campaigns? Well, for one, Celtic mythology never cared much about clean edges. There's no singular Celtic Bible, no grand unifying scroll of commandments or cosmology. Instead, we get a mosaic. Pieces passed down through oral tradition, filtered through Roman commentary, scribes with Christian red pens, and the half-remembered lullabies of grandmothers who swore that yes, the banshee did cry for your uncle. It's fragmented, mysterious, and maybe that's the point. The Celts didn't need everything written in stone because they understood something we often forget. Stories are living things. They shift, they grow, they haunt. And while their pantheon doesn't come with the same tidy structure as the Greeks or the same architectural record as the Romans, it comes with something else, present. Celtic mythology feels lived in. It's wrapped in mist, soaked in moss, and echoing across the highlands and moors. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you lean in close enough, you might just hear the rustle of antlers, the echo of a war cry, or the faint laughter of a shapeshifter on the wind. And that's why it still matters. Because in a world of constant noise, these ancient echoes offer something quieter, something older, a reminder that mystery is not a flaw in a story. Sometimes it's the heartbeat. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the sacred groves and haunted shadows of the Celtic world. If this episode stirred your curiosity or made you rethink the next time you see a lonely horse by a lake, don't forget to subscribe. In our next episode, we'll dive deeper into the legends and the lore of the Celtic warrior queens and battles that shaped their legacy. Until then, stay curious and remember, sometimes the stories that last the longest are the ones told not in books, but in whispers.